Hello, my name is Bambaji and I'm here to introduce you to gate 19. This is an overview for the gate that the Sun transits into on the 27th of January at 7:53 GMT. So today the Sun transits out of gate 41 and into gate 19. So we're still in the root center. We are still feeling the pressure of this powerful motor. You can see here in the diagram, in that bottom square, the little brown square there, the gate 19 is the black line that is indicated. The harmonic is gate 49, hanging out over in the solar plexus at the other end of the channel, and it's the channel of synthesis. And the polarity in the wheel, the opposition in the wheel, you can see it, is gate 33, and that is in the other brown square that is highlighted. That's the throat center, and this is a collective abstract gate, the gate of privacy and retreat, and it's a gate in the throat center, as you can see. So gate 19 is the last gate in the quarter of mutation. So it's kind of a big deal in a way that we have reached this point, because it is, wow, I mean, we're in a wheel and a wheel doesn't really end, but you could say it's the end of the quarter of mutation at least. We begin the energies of a new quarter, a new gate, when we have finished with gate 19. We are still, we're not still because we haven't been in it, we're in the ego circuit. And this is the circuit of the material plane. So we've moved out of the collective abstract that we had in 41, and we are now into the tribe, the ego. And the material plane is not to be underestimated. The ego circuit, particularly, is not to be underestimated, because it is not specifically or exclusively mundane. This is tribal circuitry. The keynote is support. This is the circuit of our communities and their survival, and it embraces the spiritual as well as the mundane. As we saw in the last transit, gate 41, it fuels our evolutionary process, and the fuel in the 39 provides essential energy for the mutative stages of that evolution. The 19th gate is the gate of approach. It's the gate of wanting, the gate of needing to be needed. It's the gate of flirtation. It is the root gate of the entire mystical process. It's at the source of so many things that are absolutely essential and fundamental to the way in which we live our lives, or at least it appears to be that way. The 19th gate is about making sure that it fuels the resources that are necessary to maintain our evolutionary process. And those resources are about mundane concerns like how many sheep have we got in the fields, how much corn is growing. But it's also about the spiritual resources. You know, this is the beginning of our religious process. The channel of synthesis, the 1949, it is one of the three mystical channels, together with the 2551 and the 1020. The 3740 is part of the mystical circuit in as much as it's a bridge between the mundane of the 1949 and the spiritual that we find to after we cross over from the 51 into the G center. But it's not really considered part of the mystical way in that sense. So there are three channels in the mystical way. The 1949 is the only one of the three channels that is potentially aware. You know, it's the only one that has anything to do with one of the awareness centers, the solar plexus, of course, in this case. It's not strictly mechanical like the other channels in the mystical circuit are. The 19 is the fuel of the sensitivity process. As at its most mundane, you could say that it's hardly spiritual at all, really. It is potentially oversensitive, and it is easily disturbed or distorted. When we're dealing with this 19th gate, we're dealing with a driving force, a powerful pressure coming up from the root. And if we're not operating correctly, all the energies contained here within this 19 can become distorted. So the need for territory can become distorted, the need for material security, the demands of loyalty that we have, that we put on our partners, all of these things can become distorted. And when we operate correctly as ourselves, then we're going to be able to bring into our life what we truly need without that being something that is disturbed by the resistance field. It's simply something that becomes natural for us. The 19th gate, it fuels our social needs. It fuels the drive to make sure that the community exists and that there is a place within the community for this energy. It is not necessarily about wanting or needing someone specifically. It's the energy to support, and it's the need to have the support of the community, having all of that available. It's about having access and not being socially restricted. And at the same time, Gate 19 is looking for others to share the burden of territory and resources with them. More than any other gate, the 19 is really looking for a suitable partner of some kind. And there is a link here to the mirror gate that we find on the other side of the root center, which is gate 54, which is of course also tribal. They're looking for someone who can help them to rise up in life in the career sense. The 19th gate is looking for someone who will work with them in this life as a partner, in the sense of the tribal commitment of marriage, of the fixed bond, of the bargain. The 1949 is all about courtship at the sexual level. And here we find the resources that we're looking for, if that makes sense. There are certain resources the 19 is really comfortable with, and it's looking for those within the context of these bonds and bargains. And maybe it's meeting certain rules, certain limitations, which get established by the emotional gate 49, the gate of rejection, and also of acceptance. This is the gate at the other end of the channel. So the 19 symbolizes the bride and the 49 symbolizes the groom. This channel illustrates the yin and yang of partnership. And it's so interesting when we think that this channel is drying up. I don't know, I'm shaking my head, rubbing my hands with glee because I'm not sure that it's actually going to be a really good thing, but it's what's going to happen. So maybe I don't need to have an opinion on whether it's good or not. But this channel is, it's atrophying. I think that's the right word, atrophying. Yeah, it's not breaking, it's not, there's no shattering, it's just what Ra said is happening is over time. It's not just going to stop working. This is a gradual process where the channel is kind of narrowing, and so where you've got the flow of energy going through it, it's gradually narrowing, and then there's getting to that point where it almost just seals itself off. And so there's no way for the energy to flow, and then then it just sort of withers, which sounds sounds quite it's permanent for sure anyway. But you could imagine a pipe that gets furred up over time, and then eventually nothing can move through it. This is what the future holds for the 1949. Anyone who has ever been in a tribal environment, anybody who has ever been married or involved in co-support with somebody, understands the pressure of having the necessary resources. All tribal relationships are rooted in the pressure to have the resources that are required. It's important to see the power that lies in this gate, the power to see what resources the tribe actually needs. And although it's called the gate of wanting, the gate of approach, but the gate of wanting, it's not necessarily about what the tribe wants. It truly is about what they need. And we know in our own lives that what we want is not necessarily what we really need. We can get by on so much less than what we want. The tribe recognizes the tribal bond. Of course it does. It's obvious. In the tribal context, we have to support each other because otherwise things don't work. Oh, everything is interrelated. As long as there are enough resources, and the moment that there is a lack of resources, everything falls apart. This is a deeply profound driving force in the nature of the way in which our communities are organized through the 19th gate and its channel, which is a force that drives all revolutions. Gate 49 is a gate of revolution. At a biological level, it is about food. And this is a cross-special channel. There is a relationship here between humans and mammals. Gate 19 is the gate of animism. Gate 49 is actually the butcher. It was the pressure. This is what we find here, the pressure at the beginning of our spiritual and religious practices to sacrifice animals for food. And so we can see, this is a gate where we began the worship of the spirit in animals. We began to recognize their sacrifice, and we found a way of making peace with the sacrifice that they were making, and from the way that we benefited from their death, from the energy, from the nourishment that we got from the sacrifice that they made. If you have the 19th gate in your design, one of the things to recognize is how important the basic resources of life on this material plane are going to be for you in all of your life experience. And that is having your territory, having access to your resources. As we've been going through these transits and the moon has been hitting 19 as it goes through its own journey, I've mentioned to you, Ra used to tell people with the 19th gate how important it was for them to keep their fridge full, to keep their kitchen cupboards full, so that anytime they opened the fridge, they could see they had their resources there. They weren't going to starve. It's a very important thing, because what comes up, it's not exactly a fear because it's not an awareness gate, but what comes up within 19 when the resources aren't there is this sort of the shadow side of sensitivity that comes to the surface. He also said that if at all possible, a gate 19 should have a little savings account squirreled away somewhere, a little piggy bank hiding under the bed, because this also helps to just keep them feeling really comfortable, because these are the basic things of life that you can't be doing without. 19, it's a territorial gate. Territory is one of those fundamental needs of the tribe. It needs to have its secure environment, to have certain things in that environment. The essential resources that we've just talked about, but also there are other things that come in that are essential to the running of the tribe. And whilst it is true that everything about the 19th gate is about need, it's not about need in a kind of negative sense of how neediness can be envisioned. That quality of neediness is something that we can see in the emotional gates, in the 49 and the 37. That's the tribal sort of need that can get a little bit uncomfortable because of the wave. What we can begin to appreciate about the 19th gate is the constant pressure that it is under to find territory, to find resources. And it is an imperative. Even more than a need, it's actually a mammalian genetic trait. We must have those things. The headline for Gate 19 says that all things are interrelated is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. There are, as I said, other resources that the 19 is looking for over and beyond hearth and home. Education is one of those. And this is borne out in Gate 45, the tribal ruler up there at the end of this egoic process, because they understand the importance of education for its tribe. Everything is interrelated. That's what it says in the headline, but only if there are enough resources. This tells us so much about the nature of the world, because it's really easy to say, yay, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all united as one big happy family. We are interrelated. And yet, it is only as long as there are enough resources. Have we got enough toilet paper to go around? You see people's kind of sticky side when you start limiting resources. I think we've all experienced that fairly recently in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Scratch the surface, not bear, bear. Ra used to say, if you scratch the surface of humans, there's the killer monkey is not far underneath. You know, that being in us that goes straight into aggression when resources are limited and threatened, really. So if everybody has enough to eat and has enough shelter and they're warm, if everyone has opportunities to learn, opportunities relative to their skills and their potentials, then you have an interrelated and peaceful world. The resources have to be there. And this is the pressure that 19 lives with, to make sure that those resources are there, because without them, there's no interrelatedness. And it's a fact. You know, if there are not enough resources, then the tribe will disband. The group will fall apart. The traditional name for Gate 19 is approach. It is one of the 4 ways. The 4 ways are the gates that close out all of the quarters. And as the headline indicates, it's all about interrelatedness. It is about support at the deepest tribal level. And it is also about something else, this way of approach. It's a bold, adrenaline-infused movement forward. And it is the boldness of approach to approach the other, to seek that bond with the other in order to find and secure the resources and the territory. It's this very approach that needs to operate correctly. And how do we operate correctly? We honor our strategy and we follow our inner authority. So through this transit of gate 19, the grounding is coming through gate 33, the gate of privacy and retreat, which is in the throat center and is part of the collective abstract circuit. This is the end of the experiences. This is the point of expression of that circuit. The end of the experiential circuit takes in all of the experiences that have been reflected on and made sense out of over time. And it is the storing and the sharing of cultural memory, which supports the expansion of human capacity, which is supporting human evolution. This gate of reflection can perhaps bring some space for gate 19 to truly bring some focus to what it really needs, rather than just feeling the pressure of it. The experience of the collective can inform the tribe. We tried it this way and it didn't work. Don't do that. That's not the kind of resource we need. What are your thoughts on the relationship between the 19 and the 33? Well, they're both part of the cross of the 4 ways, of course, that cross closing out the quarter. So we're on the cusp of leaving the quarter of mutation, transitioning into the quarter of initiation. And one of the ways that we make that transition is through privacy and reflection. That's actually not this one. Because that sounded really deep and impressive for a minute. But actually, it's, of course, that's the transition out of civilization and into duality. Just so that I don't confuse everybody. But yeah, so the approach that it's the gate of approach that is heralding the change. That is the way that we move from mutation into initiation. Excellent. Maybe I should go and have a lie down. So thank you very much for joining me for this overview of Gate 19. I look forward to working on my way through the lines, and if you'd like to join me, I'd be very, very pleased to have your company. And I love reading your comments and having the engagement with you that is possible through the technology that we have these days. So please keep doing that. I will see you shortly for the first line, and until then, yeah, love yourself as always and go gently.